What if the internet suddenly went dark, not to silence voices, but to stop weapons that were already inside your cities, hovering silently above your rooftops? When Iran's internet abruptly vanished, the world rushed to political conclusions, but the blackout was actually the final move in a fast-escalating digital battlefield. Hidden beneath ordinary ping signals, invisible runways had opened for tiny drones, and counterintelligence teams were already racing the clock. Their first clue came from abnormal signal behavior clinging to public Wi-Fi hotspots, connections that didn't behave like phones or laptops. Tracing those signals led investigators upward to rooftops where micro-drones were quietly parked, waiting for fresh coordinates from external cloud servers. Experts identified the architecture immediately: Israel's so-called beehive network, a distributed swarm system designed to blend into civilian digital life. Each drone moved only under cover of darkness, landing when batteries ran low, recharging before dawn, and lifting off again unseen. These were not simple surveillance toys. Each unit carried cameras and a concealed slot for a 10-gram explosive charge, enough to destroy servers, electrical panels, and control nodes, small payloads with massive cascading effects. It was infrastructure warfare on a budget, and firewalls were useless because the drones didn't rely on fixed military channels. Their command loop lived inside public cloud services, bouncing between legitimate platforms. Blocking one domain would do nothing. Connectivity itself had to die. As authorities debated throttling versus total blackout, a parallel cyber attack struck Bank SEPA. Thousands of transaction records surfaced on the dark web, and rapid response analysts spotted the same encryption fingerprints used in the drone command traffic. The conclusion was unavoidable. A single joint operations room was coordinating both digital theft and physical sabotage. The blackout would hurt the economy, but hesitation could cost lives. Iran activated its national information network and severed global internet access, keeping domestic systems barely alive. Critics accused the government of silencing dissent, but the Ministry of ICT released documentation showing over 600 discovered drones, their serial numbers traced back to European and Asian commercial markets. This wasn't crowd control, it was a shadow war spilling into civilian space. The command loop revealed why the threat was so dangerous. These drones didn't depend on commercial GPS, they navigated through Wi-Fi mapping. Every router with a weak password became a lighthouse. Cutting the internet turned millions of routers into dead plastic boxes, instantly blinding the swarm. Phase 2 locked down telephony. Flash SMS channels were blocked after intelligence suggested emergency commands could arrive via GSM. Mobile networks were restricted to domestic data only. Phase 3 targeted the home front. Domestic cloud servers were purged, shared hosts scanned for malware, suspicious entry points quarantined. The screening took 48 hours, and during that window, commercial flights were reduced because micro-drones can mask themselves behind aircraft radar signatures. A clean sky meant clearer detection, and air security took priority over economic convenience. But was the national internet enough? The answer was complicated. Local messengers stayed online, domestic banking slowly resumed, yet freelance exports collapsed to near zero. In the absence of verified news, rumors flooded the vacuum, talk of imminent airstrikes, whispers of a digital coup. Uncertainty became its own weapon. To restore confidence, the Ministry of Defense activated indigenous anti-drone systems. RF trackers were installed across urban rooftops, triangulating unknown signals within 3 seconds. This shield demanded radio-quiet frequencies, reinforcing the need for blackout conditions. The final drone tally told the story. 47 safely landed, the rest self-destructed or crashed after losing command, causing mostly minor damage to parked cars instead of critical infrastructure. Experts warn this tactic will return whenever remote-controlled threats reappear. An internet blackout, they say, is the cyberspace equivalent of a nuclear option, devastating, unpopular, but sometimes the only lever left. Looking ahead, Iran is developing a gray-edge internet, open to ordinary users, stripped of foreign command channels, with end-to-end encryption anchored inside national borders. The goal is survival, keep commerce alive while cutting attackers off at the knees. The lesson for citizens is blunt. Your router is not harmless. A default password is an unlocked door, and if you don't secure it, someone else will. Security doesn't start in operations rooms, it starts in living rooms. Businesses learned the hard way that offline backups matter. Outages can strike even major cities, and the hard drive on your desk is still the cheapest insurance policy you can buy. Parliament responded with a digital resilience bill, funding domestic CDNs and mandating dual router systems so future shocks become pauses, not collapses. Human rights groups protested, arguing the right to access was violated. The government's reply was simple: the right to life comes first. The debate is ancient, but the battlefield is new. Internationally, Iran's crypto markets froze, miners went dark, trades halted, an indirect warning to ransomware groups everywhere: when the wall collapses, theft collapses with it. So, is this story over? Maybe for now. The sub-cyber war continues without soldiers, without reporters, without warning. Wherever there is a signal, there is a watchful eye, and every blackout may be the scream of a hidden war still unfolding.